Today, we take a deep dive into a number of different game mechanics and elements, and which Nintendo games do them best. Hopefully things don't get too heated in this conversation, because this is Podcasting with Power. Welcome to Podcasting with Power, your weekly source for Nintendo and video game news, reviews, and deep dive discussions. I'm Zachary Davis, and that's Jordan Carlson. And if you like what we do here, hit that subscribe button, leave us some comments, and follow us on social media at PodWithPower. All right, Jordan, we teased this a little bit in our last episode, our Nintendo News recap for the week. This was a topic idea that you submitted here, which I like, because you get clever with them, you know? Usually yours are driven by a thing you've done. So you've been playing Metal Gear Solid 5, right?
Yeah.
And so why don't you kind of give me your pitch here?
Yeah, so I had texted you because, like you said, I've been playing Metal Gear Phantom Pain, which led me into giving 007 a shot.
Yeah.
And, I'm glad that I did that. And it just got me thinking, like, because the whole reason I went to go play 007, and I've said this on the podcast already, is that I was sneaking around and I'm like, man, I love games like this.
Yeah.
You know, I wish there was a newer game that did this. And then I'm thinking, oh my God, 007. So I was just thinking about that and how many different mechanics or elements of games that I really enjoy. And I'm thinking, like, I wonder, what would be the best of these things? So I pitched the idea to you and you kind of ran it through the finish line of coming up with maybe what some of these things should be. So we have a list of elements and mechanics, exploration, platforming, movement, so on and so forth. We'll go through the list, things like that. And we're going to define which game we think takes the cake for those gameplay elements.
Yes, we are. And of course, we're going to put a Nintendo spin on it. They don't have to be first party Nintendo owned things. They just have to be on a Nintendo platform. But we gave ourselves an additional rule of not reusing games for more than one category. Which, before we start, I'm curious, did that trip you up at all?
Yes.
Okay. Like a lot?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
I have, it did. Mm-hmm.
I just didn't want like one thing to sweep like half of it.
I know.
You know what I mean?
Well, because there's a couple that like could take like 3 or 4 of these things.
Yeah. There is one category, and we'll talk about it when we get to it, that I do feel like was kind of got the short end of the stick because of where I put some other games. But so we both have the list in front of us. And the first category here is exploration. So at least the way I defined this was really just, the traversal around the world, the way you find things, the way you, the way you interact with the world of the game directly. Is that kind of what you were looking at with this?
Yep.
Okay. Yep. So I have several games. This was one of the hardest ones for me, actually.
Oh, man, really? Okay.
I think so. I mean, let's talk about the elephant in the room here. There is probably an answer a lot of our viewers are going to think of first, right? Like, there is probably a popular answer here. If you were on Family Feud and Steve Harvey asked you, the best exploration in a Nintendo game, the 50-point answer is a certain game, and it might be your game. I don't know what your game is. But you know what I'm talking about. Is that your game for the exploration category?
Maybe.
Okay.
Now you have to go first now.
I have to go first now. Okay, that's fine. Yeah. So, of course, if I was playing Family Feud and this was the question, I would tell Steve Harvey that the number one answer is Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. We're going to lump them in together for this one. Because, I mean, they're great. They're obviously, you are literally exploring Hyrule, and it's excellent. It's not my answer, though. I've actually got 2 other things here. And I'm having such a hard time with it because one is a classic example of like one of my favorite things that video game worlds can do.
Okay.
And then another one is a very recent example of
Okay.
a kind of game that like I, didn't really think I would vibe with at first, but really ended up working for me. And man, so I guess I've got to go with the classic one just because I do love this game. So my honorable mention here is going to be Donkey Kong Bonanza. Okay. Because I loved the way that you could interact with everything in that world and that everything was made out of a material that, interacted with other things in its own way. They all had their individual properties. And I really liked that freedom. I think where I'm kind of leaning here as far as this decision is that once you kind of understand how the world is put together and how you can break it, it kind of takes away some of that magic a little bit. That's my fault. Once I'm sucking up all the material as the elephant with the trunk, it's like, okay, like, yeah, I've kind of broken the look around for fossils and coins and all that stuff. So that's a long-winded way of saying my real answer is going to be Super Metroid. Which I've talked a lot on this podcast about loving Metroidvanias, loving interconnected worlds that have lots of different paths, into one another. I like being able to backtrack, coming back to an area with a new ability and either getting somewhere new or getting an item there. And I think Super Metroid is just probably the best expression of that in a Nintendo game. There are other great Metroid games, and we will talk about them. But for this specifically, I think there's something about the simplicity of a 2D Metroid that I like. Just looking at the map and kind of figuring out, okay, how do I get there? And it's never the way you think it is. Like, it looks like a direct route, and then you realize, no, I'm going to have to do all this and, get the space jump boots and all that stuff. So, yeah, I'm going to say my favorite exploration in a Nintendo game is Super Metroid, which shouldn't probably surprise you or anybody else.
No, that does not surprise me at all. I think that's a great choice.
Okay.
I unfortunately went the path of least resistance here, but not because of that, but because it's just, I couldn't talk myself out of it.
Yeah, it's hard to. I know. I have them written here too.
So I have Breath of the Wild listed, and then I'd put an honorable mention for Tears of the Kingdom. And to be honest with you, it's hard because Breath of the Wild, I don't want to say it was barren. It was it was a little bit, but I mean, like, it was really hard for me to tell if I was looking back with like rose-colored glasses or not, because the experience of Breath of the Wild was a big one, and it was a first, for Zelda, for us in that way. The world was opened up in ways it never had been for Zelda. So there's this feeling when you think back on it of this grand exploration that when Tears came out, we were expecting it. We knew it was there.
Yeah.
So we didn't experience it in that same way again. And they knew that. That's why they had to kind of ante up, introduce more to the world. And then, of course, we have the depths in Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of fighting with myself because honestly, there's other things in here, that I don't want to like take up space for. But I think if I'm being honest with myself on exploration, like Tears of the Kingdom for me would be the better choice. And it's because of the depths, because of the mystery that came with it. So I felt excited, so excited. And like the way they got me, like the gotcha moment for that was how well they hid the depths from us before the game came out.
Yeah.
And I thought I knew what I was expecting. I thought, it was like a Trojan horse or like a red herring almost, where they were like, it's double the size. And it's like, we were thinking it's the sky, So, I mean, just the way they approached that, like, that was huge. And I felt like I was blown away. And there was more hustle and bustle to the world, and we could explore it in more ways than we ever had been with the Zonai devices.
Sure.
And how you can build the vehicles. It's just, it took the, hey, what's that over there? I can go to it. to hey, what's that over there? How would I like to get to it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I can't pass it up. I got to put Tears of the Kingdom.
That's great.
Yeah.
So that when I put these down, I wrestled with that question, which in this regard, exploration, like which is the better game? Because I think in some ways, I think you can make cases in other categories for one over the other, but this one I had a hard time deciding with, and maybe that kind of steered me away from them. But no, that's an excellent pick, and I think you explained the reasoning behind Tears very well. Because, you know, Breath of the Wild was a magic experience, but you're right. Once you kind of had more tools to play around with it, it very much changed, I think, the way we all interacted with it. So, yeah, I like that pick a lot. How about, how do we want to do this? Do we want to snake back and forth? Do you want to give the next one?
That's fine. I can go play. Yeah, you want me to go platforming? Take the platforming piece.
We're going to talk platforming, but this was one where I am curious how you came up with your answer, because there are different ways to platform. So
there are different ways to platform, and I kind of explained my last. I'm gonna give a little bit of an explanation with this one. So I wrestled with a couple of 3D and 2D for this one.
Okay.
And I think it comes down to how you interpret what does platforming mean to you, I guess. Yeah. And believe it or not, and this isn't my pick, but I'm just going to say this. One of the first things that came to mind was Super Mario Sunshine. Okay. And it's because of, I know, but like. Is
it making you sick thinking about it?
No, I don't know why when we're speaking, I tend to swallow a lot, and then it makes me like, I have to you know, but I'm thinking about all of the different situations that you're put in Sunshine, like with Flood, when Flood's taken away from you, all the different, flips that you have, like just the different ways that you move around. For some reason, Sunshine came to mind, but it's not my pick, but I kind of want you to know where my head was going.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking Mario 64, what does that do for us? So I'm like thinking of all these 3D platformers, but I end up kind of going back to the 2D space. And now I'm wrestling with things like, and we're getting closer to my pick here, but now I'm wrestling with Mario Bros. 3 and Super Mario World. But ultimately now I'm thinking, well, Mario World, it's not that the platforming itself was interesting.
Sure. Yeah.
It's just the environment you're doing it in is interesting, but which is still a valuable mention, because does enhance the experience. It doesn't have to be what is the character bringing to the table. It could also be what's the environment bringing to the table. And then I thought about Mario Wonder, because I am playing that right now too. Yeah. And that is very interesting, and thinking about how our new Mario 2D games, what do they bring to the table? Sure. But ultimately where I landed, which sounds, I know, kind of like I'm moving backwards here, but I landed back with a classic that I've mentioned before on the podcast. And this is kind of one I feel a little bummed out by it, because I would love to be a little bit more clever with my answer, but I landed on Donkey Kong Country 2.
I had a feeling that's where we were going. You took us on a ride there, and
took you on a ride.
That's a great one.
The reason though, and the reason I want to kind of take you on the ride though, is because like I want to recognize the fact that there's a lot of pathways that you should think this through, and I want to kind of show my work with what I'm thinking, because there is a lot to appreciate. And the reason I went to Donkey Kong Country 2 is because it's not like, is Mario Wonder and some of the others that I mentioned bringing more to the table with how the environment can be traversed, and like how are you platforming and what's happening? Of course, there's more diversity, I think, there. But what Donkey Kong Country brings to the table with platforming is it brings a mood and a tone that I don't feel like the others hit the same way. Okay. The levels will bring this level of like urgency or like despair or like happiness or like somberness. Like it's influenced really heavily by the vibe of the game, the atmosphere of the game. Yeah. You've got your barrels, which is also very fun and interesting. Sometimes they're moving, sometimes they're not. Yeah. Sometimes there's hidden things, different areas where you collect the bananas, the coins. It's a timing thing. There's all kinds of different strategies there. And then of course, just the normal moving around, cartwheeling. the life structure being based on you finding a barrel with Donkey Kong. Sometimes you make this decision of, do I take the risk to get my partner and have my extra life and have that cushion, or do I push on because I could die trying to get that that chance?
Yeah.
So like, I just think that's so interesting, and there's several angles to it. So I landed back on Donkey Kong Country. Long way of saying it, but you know.
Yeah, a great 2D platformer, one of the best of all time. It's funny. I feel like, again, I went through a lot of the same stuff with this one. Although for me, I feel like I knew right away what I was going to pick. And I kind of felt bad about it, that I wasn't even really considering anything else. And so I went through those same Mario games, and I thought about, okay, like, what is platforming to me? And for me, a big part of it is the skill that you need. And, you know, I love my Mario games, but like, how much skill did they really require until like the end, typically? You know, Wonder is a great game, and I loved the experience of playing it, but it doesn't get difficult until the end. And you know, I think World and 3 both have curves, you know, earlier in the game, but still, they're never that hard. So I also kind of leaned towards the Big Kong, and I chose Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze for my game that I think does platforming the best from Nintendo. And a lot of the stuff you said, you know, still rings true here. But I think for me, there is something, and all of the Donkey Kong Country games do this well, but there's something about the weight of how Donkey Kong Country feels. You know, when you play a lot of platforming, it's like, okay, here's my guy, I run, I jump, do whatever. There does feel, there's a weight to Donkey Kong Country games, whoever you're controlling in whichever game that is. And I like that because it changes the way you have to like think about your movements and your jumps and timings, and, you know, how high am I going to bounce off this guy, and all of that stuff. And I just think Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is my favorite because I think it combines kind of everything I like from the series into one thing. You know, you've still got companions. You've got Diddy Kong and Dixie and Cranky, who has a little pogo ability. I love that in a platform.
Yeah, that is cool.
You know, shout out to DuckTales. But you know, and they hide all the secret stuff. So it's like, I want to get there. How do I get there? And I love that challenge of like figuring that out. And so yeah, I just went with this flavor of Donkey Kong Country. But yeah, it's kind of the same exact logic that you used to get there. So that's funny that we both picked those.
That is funny.
Next up is movement. And so I have two answers for movement, and I think I know which one I'm ultimately going to go with here. And it's not just to mix things up, because the other one I have written down is Metroid Dread. And I remember the first time I started that, I was like, Samus feels so buttery smooth here, you know, like moving around, running, switching directions, jumping. It was great. But what I want to give a shout out to here is a game that does not get enough attention, but it's an excellent game. It's a GameCube game called F-Zero GX.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the reason that I picked it is because once you get good at F-Zero GX, you feel like a god. Like you can achieve anything. It's one of those games, do you have this where when you're in it, you're like super good at it, but if you lapse for a little bit, if you stop playing for a couple weeks, months, years, and you go back, you're like, I don't know how I ever did this. This one in particular, this particular F-Zero is that game where if you don't give it the time, you will lose the skill you need to move around. But it's another one where you have so much control over the Blue Falcon or whatever, you know, machine you're in. And it's great. Once you feel like you've got a handle on it, it completely changes the way you view the game. And I think it is like the best expression of F-Zero and all the super fast racing and all that. Like, it's just, yeah, it becomes a very different experience once you can do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We went in a couple of different directions with this, which I like.
Sure. Yeah.
And I didn't mention this intentionally for platforming, but you could argue that this is, you could argue that I'm talking about platforming here, but
okay, sure.
because I feel like this is more of a movement thing. So I don't know why I always hesitate before I tell you what my answer is.
You do.
I put Mario Odyssey for movement.
Okay, I like that.
And the reason is because I am always impressed when I watch videos of people who are very good at this game, especially speedrunning, which we don't talk about very often. I'm not hugely into speedrunners.
Sure.
I do predominantly watch people do Zelda speedruns usually.
Sure. Yeah.
But I do from time to time, because of that, will stumble on something else. And it is interesting to watch Mario Odyssey because constantly you will see just times get crushed because people find out something else you can kind of do and how you move around. So I think like that, I can't imagine being like a speedrunner for Odyssey, honestly, just to like be like, no, you know, you know, but I mean, with all the jumps and diving, and I've never been good at the like throwing Cappy and using Cappy as like that last bit.
Yeah, you see people do that, and it's pretty amazing.
Like I can do it to a point, but like I'm not like whipping out these crazy lines. Like you do see a lot of really crazy stuff, and like I did look this up to make sure I don't sound like a fool, but like roll cancels, you know?
Yeah. Okay.
It's crazy what you can do with moving around in that game. And thinking about games like Sunshine, like I had mentioned, and everything you could do with Flood, Odyssey just brought so much to the table. And I think it's interesting because they absolutely thought about that. I feel like they, you know, went back and said, what have we done really well? And then went in Odyssey and said, okay, how can we improve on this? And how can, you know, we have Cappy now.
Yeah.
They obviously, not obviously, but I feel like they took this character and they were like, what can this bring to the table? How can this change the game?
Right.
And I just feel like I was really satisfied with everything they did with that. So I got to go with Odyssey for movement.
No, that is a great pick. Yeah, that was another one where like the first time you boot it up, you're just like, oh wow, this feels good. I'm gonna play the hell out of this, and it still feels good. I mean, we're almost a decade later, and it's still awesome. Now we're at the category that inspired this topic. We're on stealth. So you talked about Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. You talked about 007 First Light, but from the Nintendo stable, because neither of those games are there yet. What did you pick for the best stealth?
I went with another Metal Gear game.
Okay.
I went with Twin Snakes.
Ooh.
All right. Which, to be honest with you, because the thing is about, and I'm going to be honest with you right away, that's not my number one Metal Gear at all.
No, I don't think it's a lot of people's number one. I think it has a special place, but
it does.
Yeah.
But the thing is that there's not a lot of, at least that came to mind for me, there's not a lot of Nintendo that really scratches this. I really couldn't think of anything. And if I'm being fully honest with you, I was looking at Metal Gear and what released on Nintendo. And I didn't play a whole lot of Twin Snakes, but enough to know. I feel like this was more of that also.
Okay.
Pretty much all of that. Sure. Not really the flexibility that I like from Metal Gear titles. But I really was kind of having trouble with this one, honestly, for Nintendo, and that's where I landed. So I really don't have too much to say, to be honest with you.
No, that's great. For people that don't know, this is a remake of the original Metal Gear Solid for the GameCube. It's pretty cool. Do you remember Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater for the 3DS?
Yes, but I think I played Snake Eater on PSP. Did I? What was that one?
I don't know if there was a PSP. It was on Vita for sure, but I don't know. Oh, there was Peace Walker. Yeah,
that's what I played.
PSP, of course. Okay, another good one. Okay, so yeah, that's a good pick. Obviously, Metal Gear Solid, big stealth game. For this one, I had to kind of think too, because you're right. That's not a mechanic Nintendo utilizes a lot, and when they do, I don't always love it. I think of my beloved Star Fox Adventures. Not a great stealth game. Zelda uses it every now and then in different ways, but I went with Metroid Fusion. We're back to Metroid, but hear me out. So Metroid Fusion, you are basically being stalked by the SAX parasite that has taken your form. And you will frequently, when you're playing, the game will stop and it will like pan up and you'll see the SAX walking around and you have to hide and, be quiet and let it pass by and all that stuff. And if it notices you, it will chase you. And that can be alarming, to say the least. Metroid Dread does this as well with the Emmys, and there's probably more of it in that game, but there's just something, I don't know. I feel like it's a little more nerve-wracking in Metroid Fusion, so I went with that one. It feels more important to be stealthy in Metroid Fusion, I guess is the best way to put it.
Okay.
Yeah. The next one is probably the one I had some of the hardest time with of this whole list. Okay?
Yeah.
So this is combat for those playing at home. And the reason why is because, like, I don't think Nintendo games do a lot of standout combat. It's fine. No. It's passable. Mm-hmm. I think every 3D Zelda, because of Z targeting and all that, I think has passable combat. None of it's awful. No. So I had to kind of rack my brain and think, okay, what stands out as a combat system from a Nintendo game? And I went with Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door.
What?
Because I love the way that Paper Mario, is a turn-based RPG, and I love the way that it makes you interact with it. You press A to time the jumps, you jump again, you have to hold back the hammer, all the different power-ups and special moves all have different mechanics that you have to kind of play along with. And then you have all the sidekicks that all have their own abilities, the badges that modify how you do things and what you can do. Like, I just think it's, of the Paper Mario games, it's the deepest as far as what you can do with it. There's the most variety, and I just think it's fun to play. Every battle is fun to play. So that's what I went with here. Okay.
I went with Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Okay, I like that.
Which the reason isn't... I want to explain this a little bit because, like you said, I had a hard time with this one too because... And I think I do this every time we have an open topic like this and we have to kind of spill out a library of games. I feel so quick to throw out Zelda games.
Same. I had a lot of Zeldas on this list originally.
I do still.
Yeah.
And I have things I'd like to say. And it's just that, like, I try not to because I love Zelda so much. I feel like I could talk about it in all of these in a way, like in stealth. It's like, well, in Wind Waker, when you first infiltrate the Forsaken Fortress, like there's always something you can say. But I wanted to go Smash Bros. Ultimate because I just feel like we blew open the doors with Ultimate. So just getting out of the way. We got so many players in the game. We have more diverse moves than we ever have. We have more environmental variables than we ever have, I would say.
Yeah.
And we're just at this point where, like, we have such unique choices when it comes to who our fighters are and how just in depth we've gotten with what that means for you, in how dynamic you can be and how your choices can change based on who you're fighting against,
Yeah.
So, like, you're looking at players that are ground-based fighters. You're looking at fighters that are aerial-based fighters. You're looking at a little bit of a hybrid. It's so in depth, and not just as a party game, but just the competitive scene for it. And for that reason, I feel like if you wanted to, and you're in the right scene, there really is a lot to say about the combat in Smash Bros. Now and how much we've evolved that series. So I felt like that was a great choice.
Yeah, I agree. I almost put that one here. And my reasoning was that as deep as all of the differences are in all the different fighters and things you can do, I like that compared to other fighting games, it's a pretty standardized system, right? A is just your regular moves. B are your special moves. You point the stick in different directions to modify them. And every character has a set. You just kind of learn what their set of moves is. And I think that it does such a great job of standardizing that it makes it easy to pick up. There are some of the DLC characters that, like, I've played once or twice is all. But if you wanted to play right now, I could pick it up and I could understand how to play. I may not know what all their moves do, but I can, functionally play as whoever, pretty much. So that's a great pick. Our next category, and this will go to you first again, is boss battles.
I had not a good time with this one
because there are memorable bosses, but I was like trying to pick one that like had a lot of good bosses, right?
Yeah, and you know what? I went with the Zelda title. Okay, I'm just gonna.
I know.
Throw that out there.
Yeah.
And I had a really hard time choosing which one. And again, I feel like I'm wrestling with the rose-colored glasses again because I feel like there are a lot of memorable Zelda boss battles, but it's like, were they inspired by another Zelda game or another game in general, but really typically another Zelda game? So I'm trying to think like, which one do I feel like was most memorable, most unique? And what do I think is unique about it? Is that just my own opinion, which it is, but at the end of the day, like, is it, could this be a popular opinion?
Okay.
And I ended up landing actually on Ocarina. Which I don't even really want to say. Actually, you know what? I can say the other one. Yeah, I can say. So I was wrestling actually with Wind Waker, honestly.
Interesting. Okay.
But for reasons I don't want to say yet, I didn't choose it. So I put Ocarina of Time, and the side notes that I have are how heavily, like, we know a theme in Zelda games is using the items against the boss. That's just typically how they go. That's the Zelda formula. That's where we've always kind of been. And I just don't know if it's the cleverness of the battles themselves. Obviously, there's always like the shoot the glowy eye with the thing. You know what I mean? Like, that's a common occurrence. But I have Goma, which was the very first of that. Shoot the glowy eye with the thing. I put Phantom Ganon. That was fun because it's great. It's mostly, the environment. I was making a circle with my hands because you're moving around with a bow and arrow. So like, they didn't take the easy out. And the reason I put Phantom Ganon and Goma is because the easy out would be another glowy thing that you shoot with the bow and arrow.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
But they're thinking, no, you got to look through these paintings and wait for them to kind of running towards you. You got to nail them with it. Sure. So, they took a layer of thought to it. And then we have Volvagia with the Megaton hammer coming out of the holes. That's fun.
Yep.
And then the hitbox is crazy to me, and it's so annoying because he hits you so easily when you're trying to move out of the way. So that does drive me nuts. And then my very, very favorite, and the reason that I thought of this in general, is Twin Rova. I love getting the beams, soaking them up with the mirror shield.
Yep.
And like shooting that back. Unexpected. So cool. I love the Spirit Temple is my favorite temple. I love that battle. And then of course, Ganon's castle, the final showdown with Ganon, I think was super fun. Getting to blast back his beams and then ultimately using the sword, and then having that part 2, where you could use the Megaton hammer again if you'd like.
Right. Yeah.
But like, of course you got that 2-part Ganon battle, but like, it just felt so epic to me in the music, and it just those were memorable experiences. And I feel like the mechanisms in which you performed to defeat the bosses, they feel long lasting, and I am very excited to see how they do with these in the remake.
Yeah, I love that. I think that is a phenomenal answer. I also chose a Zelda game for this because that's a big part of Zelda. And when I started, I thought, okay, this is easy. I know exactly what it's going to be. It's going to be Twilight Princess. Then I thought about it. I'm like, I like the dungeons in Twilight Princess a lot.
Yeah.
I like some of the bosses in Twilight Princess, but not all of them. So what should it be? And I also landed on Ocarina of Time. Because for every reason that you just said, but I agree that I feel like it does use the dungeon item against the boss thing the best. There's a lot of variety to it. And maybe that's because it was the first 3D Zelda. And other games that came later kind of maybe, looked at its homework a little bit. But I think it just, it was always exciting when you get to the end of a temple or your dungeon in that game, and just to see what it was and then play through it. And then, some of them are challenging too. I remember the first time going through that game and being like, wow, this, like, how do the discovery of figuring out how to fight them is a big part of it. And I really enjoyed that. So, that's where I went with boss battles on this one as well.
Do you feel like Twin Rova though? So like I remember having a hard time with that boss.
That one's tough. Yeah.
Like figuring out what I needed to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's 2 elemental witches flying around. You have to, like you said, reflect beams back at them. And yeah, it's for a first timer, it's a little much. Our next one is another one that I had a hard time with, and only because I feel like there are so many options. And this category is puzzle design, okay? Which upon thinking about it here, I was like, this might be one of the things Nintendo does best. Because I had a lot of things pop into my brain right away. Obviously, the Zelda franchise is, rife with puzzles and makes really good use of that. I did, put Link's Awakening on my short list. And, I have Captain Toad there, but like, that wasn't going to get the spot. I love Captain Toad. But the puzzles aren't the most complex things. And once you've done them, there's no, there's really no challenge to it to do it again. So I had to kind of dig and be like, what is really the best puzzle design that I've played in a Nintendo game? And I went with Donkey Kong 94 for the Game Boy. All right. Okay. So, for people that don't know, it starts out, it is Donkey Kong, the arcade game. And then once you clear that, you unlock like 100 levels that are just Mario versus Donkey Kong puzzles. And they give Mario some moves. You can do a cool little backflip, walk on your hands, all that stuff. And they do such a good job of playing with that sandbox of tools they made. It's kind of like they had a Mario Maker toolkit and they were just like, yeah, let's do some crazy stuff. Like, it was like those puzzle challenges you would find online in Mario Maker. And I think Donkey Kong 94 kind of nails it.
That's a good answer.
I thought so. I was like, what? I don't get to shout out Donkey Kong 94 enough. So here it is. I'm curious what you want with here. I truly am.
I got really stuck. I literally have a list of like
okay,
a bunch of things here. And my number one on the list actually is not a first party Nintendo game. Okay. And you know what I'm realizing that I did on here is I saved answers thinking I would need them later.
I see. Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like I was afraid to give you an answer because I'm like, oh, I might say that because I have options. I'm making last minute calls, so I have to be like, did I just fuck up my answer down the line?
Sure.
So I'm like playing this nasty game of like, I don't want to screw myself down here. Because to be honest with you, I want to give another Zelda answer here, but
yeah. And I think there are plenty of games that would deserve this. Truly.
There are a lot of games that would deserve this. And the reason this one's on my mind is because I've been wanting to play this one co-op and haven't been able to, which might give you a big hint as to which one I put down or one of the ones I put down.
Triforce Heroes.
Dude, actually, that is such a good idea.
Is it?
I think so. I think it'd be fun. But more than that, what's the other one? Why am I forgetting? Triforce Warriors? Triforce? GameCube. What am I thinking?
Four Swords Adventures?
Four Swords Adventures. Yeah. Oh, God, I wish. I would love to do that. No, I put Portal 2.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, I mean, that's hard to beat, right?
Well, it is. I mean, and that's the thing. So, like, trying to stray away from something so obvious, I guess, and bringing more attention back to Portal, because I do feel like we're moving far away from Portal, and maybe it's not at the forefront of people's lists or anything, but the Portal collection did come out on Switch. I did play it on the Switch. Yeah. I actually tried to get Amanda to play through Portal. She wasn't a huge fan, but understandably too. It's kind of an overwhelming concept of something that if you're not a fan of first person and puzzling,
yeah, it can be a lot, probably.
It can be a lot. But anyway, I put Portal 2 because the puzzling is just absolutely insane, man. And when you tie it into just how much fun you have because of how funny the game is, there's really not a lot that can compete with it. And even Zelda, in a way, like, you think about games like Wind Waker or Twilight Princess, but Wind Waker, I'm thinking of like, we were talking about the mirror shield being used in the boss battles for Ocarina of Time, but like in some of the dungeons for Wind Waker, having to move the mirrors around and position them to have things, have the light reflect throughout the dungeon. Like there are so many cool things that Zelda does all the time in its dungeons to kind of give that, to really make you kind of scratch your head and go back and say, like, what do I need to do, or what do I have in my arsenal that will allow me to complete this? It's hard to look at something outside of the Zelda franchise because they're so good at puzzling. But like I said, I feel like I have this innate like reflex of trying to avoid saying Zelda to some of these answers. So Portal 2, though, I think is a really great answer to puzzle design. And can you imagine also, like, I mean, writing a Zelda game, absolutely, I'm not saying it's any easier, but like designing the Portal like levels.
Oh yeah.
Having to be like, what if they like, but they might like they could probably, like, that's hard to do.
Absolutely.
Like, that's crazy. So I don't know. Long way of saying Portal 2, I think should be the right answer.
That's a great pick. I love Portal 2. One of my all-timers. Next up is progression. And again, so the way I looked at this one was just kind of the way you build up as you play. So we're kind of on the same page there. So what do you think has the best progression in a Nintendo game?
Oh, so I put Skyward Sword.
Whoa.
Yo, that does not sound like you agree with me at all.
Well, I'm surprised to hear it from you, I think, but
no, I like Skyward Sword.
Hating Skyward Sword. I know that's not true, but like I'm always surprised when you give Skyward Sword flowers on this podcast because I don't know. It just surprises me every time.
I was young and stupid, I didn't know what I liked.
Sure.
I did, but I didn't know that I liked Skyward Sword yet. But no, I gave Skyward Sword because I think I might have made the same reference in one of the shows a couple weeks back or something. But Skyward Sword has this tendency to loop back on itself, and we hadn't seen it a lot in Zelda.
Yeah.
And not to mention the fact that as you do in Zelda, everything you get kind of expands the world for you. And you gain more ability, but because you're looping back, you're constantly having to think, how can I interact with this environment differently than I could last time I was here? And sometimes it's way more than you thought. And sometimes you're in the moment. You're like, can I go up there? You're like, should I be able to figure this out? And like, I can understand though, there's a little bit of I do get a little claustrophobic when you first, like maybe the first quarter of the game because of how tight some of those areas are.
Yeah.
But I do feel like, with just the sky and, going on the surface, like I just feel like once things kind of open up a little bit there, you can do a little bit more. And I just feel like I feel rewarded as the game goes on with what I get and what I can do later on. So yeah, I put Skyward Sword.
Yeah. I like that. I like that pick a lot. Skyward Sword is, the most Metroidvania a 3D Zelda gets, I think. And so it's only fitting that my pick is Metroid Prime. Because for the same reasons, I love that you're constantly moving back and forth in the map. It almost made my, exploration pick at the beginning. But what I like about Metroid Prime is that every time you come back to somewhere, you have a new ability. And it lets you interface with that location in a completely different way. And so you feel you're watching your evolution by what you can do in every hub area, for example, and I think it kind of nails that by giving you different beams and, ball moves and all that stuff.
same train of thought. Just haven't given Metroid Prime the time of day to know that would.
Sure.
That's good. I like that.
But I think it's telling. I'm trying to get you to play Metroid Prime. I think it's telling that the reasoning here is very similar.
It is very
I
similar.
feel like
That's
you'll like
really
that Metroid Prime loop because it is so similar to that.
That's funny. That is really funny.
So, okay, it's me again. This I think is going to be, outside of Ocarina of Time, our first one we've doubled up on. So This is the collectibles category. And I kind of went back and forth with some different things, but I do think there's one standout for me, and it is Super Mario Odyssey. I love that kind of, and I guess I could have put Bonanza here too, but I love how there are moons in just about every corner of Mario Odyssey. You are constantly collecting something there, and it makes you feel accomplished for doing sometimes silly little things. But when I thought about collectibles, I'm like, well, it's got to be more than just the main collectible. That's fun, right? And I think of all of the 3D Mario games, you've got the Shine Sprites in Sunshine and the Stars in 64. But in this one, the coins are also worth collecting. You want to get all the coins in the level because they're unique to each world. And each world has different items and outfits you can buy for Mario with that world's coins. So I like that there's kind of like two levels of it. And I guess if you want to consider the different transformations, collectibles, and all that, you can too. But I just like that, you always feel like they do such a good job of using the collectibles to steer you towards things. And usually you find something else and you feel accomplished doing it. And I think that's kind of exactly what a collectible should be for.
Okay. That's a good answer. That is a good answer. I do feel every time I play Odyssey, I don't want to say overwhelmed by what I need to collect, but there is a lot of that to be done.
There's a ton. Yeah.
Honestly, so I was thinking about this too recently. I feel like a lot, and I noticed that on this podcast, but I do feel a lot of things. I think collecting. Do you remember when Bonanza was coming out and I was like, I'm worried this is going to be a collectathon? Like the entire game is just a collectathon.
Yeah, like way too much. Yeah.
Because it does to me, and it still kind of feels this way. And I think I said this on when we did that retrospective when that game came out. I was worried we'd just be smashing through the levels and just grabbing stuff, you know, and that's the whole point, just destroying and gathering.
Yep.
I feel like that used to be way more of a gameplay used to really revolve around that, like back in the 64 days, especially.
Okay.
You know, because you think about like, and I think we have Mario 64 to blame for that. Blaming is a kind of a heavy way to say it, but 64 really set the tone for that. Because I think about games like Bomberman 64 and how that game was structured, very similar.
Okay.
I think about games like Banjo, Donkey Kong 64, very, very much like this. You enter these different worlds, you're collecting a lot of things, accomplishing these different things within those worlds. And it's going to benefit you to do this main big quest thing.
Sure.
You know, a lot of the gameplay elements. So when I was thinking about collectibles, I really found myself thinking about the 64 days and like, what do I think the top one would be? And I honestly, I landed on Banjo-Kazooie for it.
Okay.
And the reason for that is, like I said, that was, I think, like one of the founding fathers, maybe you could say, of collectathons. But there's also just a bunch of different rewards. So like you could collect the feathers or so that you could fly around as Banjo.
Yep.
The Mumbo tokens for Mumbo Magic. The Jiggies, obviously, that you need. There's a lot of that happening, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was the bird guys.
Kazooie. Oh, the Jinjos.
The Jinjos. Yeah, the Jinjos. There's just so much. Like you go into every level and you're like, I have a lot to find, you know? Yeah. So I didn't see another option. I had to go Banjo-Kazooie. Had to.
That definitely popped into my mind as well. And the one reason I couldn't give it to Banjo, because I love Banjo-Kazooie, you know that. The one reason I couldn't do it is because of, in specifically the original release, the notes. When you leave a world, it erases the notes you've picked up. And so then you go in and if you want to get 100 in the world, you have to do it over. You have to do it in one go. And they fix that, in the 360 release and all that. But it's like, that drives me crazy. But you get it. It's a hardware limitation thing. But it's like, now that I don't have to do it, and I, when I went back and played it on NSO, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I have to do it all at once. It's a pain.
It is just bananas, man. Bananas.
It's a great game. How about level design? What do you got for best level design?
Level design was another one that I struggled with. Pretty big. And I don't. I like my answer, but I don't love my answer. Is the issue.
Okay.
I went with a game that I mentioned earlier in the podcast. I went with Mario Sunshine for level design.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Why? You hate Mario Sunshine, don't you?
I don't hate it, but it's just like, what's it all about?
What's it all about? It's about, look, man, there's a Banksy going around dirtying up the town, man. They don't like it,
I guess thinking about it, the level design in that is one of the better things. Yeah.
I really enjoyed it because it does. I mean, I'm not going to say there's not some repeat action going on. Like, I'm not saying that there's just these incredibly special things happening around every corner, but I do think a majority of the game, you're going into something new in each world. Rico Harbor is really cool because you're up on these platforms and you could fall off of them, and that sucks. And sure, maybe you have the flood attachment that you could rocket right back up there, but you still have to go get it to do it.
Yeah.
So you kind of have that dangling over you, an inconvenience for that.
Okay.
And then you have, and I'm going to not remember all the names for the courses as we go through here, but there's the one where you go on top of the Shine Gate, go in the tube.
I can never remember that one. That's under.
I know.
Like the village and the flaming chain
village.
Yeah.
Things go awry there. Sometimes you're there at night. But there's that whole underground area on that one. And I remember kind of stumbling on that. Now you have a risk of falling and exiting the level, and there's all kinds of challenges down there. And then you just have interesting, random, weird stuff like that really like kind of just off hotel that you go to.
Yes, that's creepy.
That gives you like the Luigi's Mansion feels, but not really. It's like slightly, the music even's a little off, unsettling. I really enjoyed all the different atmospheres in that game, and of course the mechanics that come along with it. But I really enjoyed the level design there. I know that there's more to be said about, maybe games that set you up in different ways. Maybe it is the level complementing the platforming more, like we talked about a little bit with some of the platforming things that we brought up earlier in the podcast. But as far as like what a level brings to the table, I think there's more to be said, of what it can do outside of how it enhances the character's movement, but also like how does it kind of move the game forward in the story, and how does it make the player feel while they're kind of going about their business. And Mario Sunshine it set a tone for me earlier on that I just haven't ever shook, and I just really enjoy every time. So I put that on there.
Yeah, I like that. I like that every area is like a functional area of the island. Yeah, I like that. That's like a nice touch. Yeah, it's funny. So I considered Mario 64 for this because it has some pretty memorable levels, but then I kind of thought about it. I'm like, but they're weird. They're just a lot of floating blocks in the sky and stuff. Like it, functionally it makes sense, but like I don't like looking at it. And so I was like, well, what kind of level do I like to look at? And so I went back and forth, and ultimately I landed on The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. And when I'm thinking about the levels, I'm thinking of like the dungeons specifically. And what I really liked about, especially at the time, I liked that all the dungeons were like built into a thing, right? Like it's, the Forest Temple is the Forest Temple, but then the next level is the Goron Mines, and it's like a mine,
Goron Mines.
And you go through, and I like the Snowhead Mansion, and
do you?
I do. I really like that level.
I hate that one.
That's another one that I like backtracking and doing all that. But I think another thing that Twilight Princess does really well we talked about how Ocarina uses the items really well for boss fights. I think Twilight Princess uses items really well for traversing the dungeons. And I like the variety in that. And I love how much Twilight Princess plays with like the full, scale of the area. So like in the Goron Mines, for example, in most dungeons, it's like you just kind of have the floor and that's the area you're on. But then you have the thing you can take the iron boots up, the magnetic rock or whatever it is, right? So now you're using that whole open air space. And then, in the city in the sky, you're using the dual hook shots to fly all around. And so I like that the dungeons in Twilight Princess utilize that like open air in a way that other Zelda dungeons don't. So yeah, that's my pick for level design. I think it just nails it. And I like that it's all in the context of the world there.
That's a good choice. Goron Mines, what big chef's kiss to Goron Mines. I will say too, I do hate on Snow Peak. Is it Snow Peak Ruins or something? Mansion? You said Mansion. It might be Mansion.
I said Mansion, but you're right. Ruins might be right. I don't know.
Might be Ruins. I
think it's Manor.
Manor. I think you're right. Damn, I could Google, but I'm not going to. I really love that they built that into like the mansion. It's not just like, here's this relic. It's not just another worn down temple thing that's tucked away that no one knows for some reason. Like, it is cool that there's like a story there. And then of course getting to it's fun with the shield surfing. Like, that's so cool.
Yeah. It's little touches like that.
Oh yeah.
So this one is me again, right? Atmosphere.
Yeah.
So yeah, just kind of the general vibe. And I was really, up until kind of this moment right now, I've been between two. I've been really between two. And I'm going to say what I'm not going to go with, because I know you can't pick it because you've already mentioned this game. And that is Donkey Kong Country 2. I think Donkey Kong Country 2 is really good about setting a vibe. We've talked about how we like how it just takes the pirate theme and just runs with it. And I do think it's really like you jump into a level, and it's the music and the graphically, like visually, it all looks the way you want it to, and it really commits to that tone, and I love that. But what I ultimately went with here, and I wasn't sure which game in the series to go with, but I went with Pikmin 4 because it is the most recent, has the highest fidelity, and I think all 4 Pikmin games are great about. They make you feel small. They're very good about the world and everything around you being big and scary. It does seem desolate and and mysterious. And I think they're all really good about that. But 4 is just good in that it's using all the tools. It's got all the effects and water and all these things going on. And I think it's my favorite atmosphere wise.
Okay. Atmosphere is super fun for me. I have 6 choices.
Whoa.
And man, oh man, do I not know which one I want to tell you. Let's see. Hold on. Let me look.
I'm curious. Yeah, there's some good picks for sure.
Okay. I will say, what's so funny is I knew this whole time what I was going to say. Like, while you were going, I knew what I was going to say, and it's not that. Like, I'm not going with what I was going to say. But I think I can tell you right away what I was going to. Yeah. Okay. The answer I was going to tell you, I'm going to tell you right now. It's not my answer anymore. I have a different one. Okay.
Okay.
The answer that I was so confidently going to tell you was going to be Luigi's Mansion.
And I thought about that one. That's a great pick.
I was going to give you that because, man, like, I remember being genuinely, and I won't harp into this too much because I feel like every time Luigi's Mansion comes up, I say this, so I don't want to just say the same thing over and over, but I remember being genuinely a little creeped out when I was younger playing it,
Sure. Valid.
And it's just a cartoon game, so like, they do a good job at setting that tone. So I really thought that was kind of the direction I would go in. With the music and everything. But I think what I have to go with is Majora's Mask. I have to go with Zelda Majora's Mask.
Okay.
And the reason, I mean, I don't even know. Those who have played, I don't even think I have to explain. It's so, the whole thing is so visceral. It's just, you can feel it, the tension build.
It is,
you know,
and it's throughout the whole thing. You're right.
and it built, and every day it's just more and more and more. You get your earthquakes going. It's raining on the second day. The music changes to kind of match that tone. Like it is sad, upsetting, and like people are getting desperate, and like people's attitude changes for different things as you get closer to the final day. And my God, like if you make this mistake, like if you decide to go on a side quest, and maybe for some reason, I don't know why you do this. If you're crazy, you must be a psychopath, but like, you're like, I'm going to go complete the temple and not go back to the first day.
Yeah.
You found yourself in a pickle, especially if it's, you know, for me, Great Bay Temple, fuck that temple, you know, if I don't finish it, I'm going to have to go do it again. I don't want to do that. You know, like,
absolutely.
Oh my God. You know, so like the atmosphere of that game, it's dripping all the time, you know, and I love it for that. And I think that a majority of the reason that I go back to Majora's Mask is because of how alive that atmosphere, how much you can just feel it. You know, I love that.
No, that's excellent. I think you're right. Of any Zelda game, I feel like it has one of the best cohesive tones throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it very much makes you feel that way. In a similar vein, a little different, we got storytelling. So this was one where I just had one pick, but I'm curious, was this a tough one for you?
Yeah, a little bit. I went with a non-conventional on this one.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What was that?
Why is that, or what is it?
What is it? Yeah.
Ooh, do I go first this time again?
You do, yeah.
Oh, I do. Oh, okay. I went with Thousand Year Door, one of your choices earlier.
Okay, yeah.
Actually,
like that.
And to be completely honest with you, I don't know that I would limit it to Thousand Year Door. I just chose that because it's the most recent one that I've played.
Sure.
You know, when it came out for Switch and all that. But I don't know that this one really warrants a really long explanation. I just think it's really fun that you kind of pick up different people as you go. Mm-hmm. I think they do a great job at kind of explaining what's happening. I feel like I'm part of that story. You are quite literally in a story. So I just feel like I'm on a fun adventure, and I love that because it's set in that story. Like this is such a dumb, I've never said this out loud before.
Okay.
Like it's like, you could just, you know your part and everything, and it feels very played out, and you're just kind of executing. I don't really know how to say. I think that Paper Mario does just a fantastic job at telling a story. So I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I agree. It's paced very well. I think you're always moving, always doing something new, and it's interesting. Yeah, I think that's a great pick. Yeah, I didn't even think about that one, but that's an excellent pick. Mine came to me fairly quickly, and it's one we just talked about, Majora's Mask. I think of all of the Zelda games, I think it is one of the best at conveying its story. It's, a little shorter in terms of like, because you're doing the cycle, it's like there's actually only so much happening in terms of the plot. But I really like it. I like the themes it deals with loss and grief and all that kind of stuff. I like the way that you kind of discover as you go to each area, you kind of discover what they're dealing with, what the Deku are dealing with, and then the Gorons and the Zora. And yeah, I just think it unfolds in a very natural way. I also love the little side stories and the way they evolve as you go from each day in the cycle. On day 1, the characters are doing this. On day 2, they're here. And 3, like, it's just cool to see that. And then as you play, you kind of learn their routines and what they're doing. And yeah, I think it just does a really good job of conveying all of those things with its story.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So music. Okay. So this is one where I had a harder time with, because I thought this was going to be the one where I had to kind of make a concession. I had Ocarina of Time here at one point, because I think Ocarina of Time uses its music beautifully. I had Banjo-Kazooie here at one point.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Or no, I'm sorry, I misspoke. I wasn't going to use Banjo-Kazooie here because I wasn't sure if we were doing third parties. So, and then I thought about putting it in level design, but I didn't do that. And so I had Mario Galaxy here.
Oh,
so
that's
I've given away the store, but my pick for music is Banjo-Kazooie. And that's because I love the way it uses music. It's just in step with everything you do. And the way it changes when you're high up in the sky, when you're underwater, when you're in your menu.
Yeah.
Like the way that context changes, it's perfect. It is so intrinsic to the DNA of that game. I can't imagine like playing Banjo-Kazooie on mute would be pain. That'd be very difficult to do.
Banjo-Kazooie's music, it's so like slapstick fun too.
It is, yeah. It's perfect tone wise throughout the entire game. Yeah.
God, that's a good choice. You know what I realized too is a couple weeks back I was playing through Mario 64 as you do, just here and there, you know. And I was at Dire Docks and doing the one for the eel, going in the window to go get the
Yeah.
And I was just kind of fucking around waiting for the eel to come out,
Yeah.
And I went down to that underwater cave and realized when you enter that cave, that's when the music starts getting the drum track. It gets a little groovy down there.
Yeah.
Like you enter it, like it's all, the normal music. And then once you enter that cave, it's like, and I was just like, oh my God, this got groovy. Like, you know, and then just more thought, like you realize that when you go underwater, the music in Mario 64 changes also. So like there's all these different stages of the music in that game based on what you're doing. And I love that you brought that up for Banjo-Kazooie because it's even more so for Banjo-Kazooie. Because like you said, I love in Banjo when you go up really high because you saw something up there.
Yeah.
It's just very like,
yep.
And like, that's such a like low hanging fruit for something you can do to just add a little bit of that extra special chili pea. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
to the game. So that's awesome. I struggled with this pretty bad. So,
okay.
Dude, I have 3 answers that I love, all 3 of them. And I feel like these last couple ones are like classic answers from me here, but like,
sure.
So don't type any of these ones yet, but I'm going to give you my top 3 and then I'll iron it down. I have Wind Waker, which is why I said I'd bring it up later. And a little explanation there. I just feel like we got more lore, and the game was all Zelda has a little bit of the music element where they're like, the Ocarina of Time with its mysterious power and blah blah blah. But like Wind Waker, you had your sages that you had Medley with her like harp thing. What is that actually?
It's a harp, right?
The harp, yeah. And then you had Makar with his violin.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then you were the composer with your Wind Waker, which is really cool. So, I mean, like there was it just felt more intertwined with the music element. And I love that title song kind of came out in different pieces. And like the more you would progress, like you were building up the ensemble and it just became this whole like solid piece. Yeah. And that was like just beautiful to me. And I love that, when you were on, oh my gosh, the island for Makar,
Forest Haven,
you could hear him like in his little waterfall retreat, playing his violin. You just hear that solo track. Like that's just so cool. So I feel like the depth for Wind Waker was really great. My other 2 choices are a little less sentimental, but Monkey Ball music just absolutely rules.
Sure.
I don't know, that the track called Fat Boy just rips, dude.
Sure.
So Monkey Ball, love that. And then my other one, Diddy Kong Racing, a classic.
Ooh, that's another great pick.
Nothing gets me more juiced than Crescent Island on my way to work. You know what I mean? Like, I just love that game's music. But I think I'm going to put Wind Waker, unfortunately, another Zelda title, just because I feel like, again, it's not just about how good the music is, but to me, how does the music impact the game? And like you said with Banjo, all the dynamics of it. Yeah. Wind Waker just ties into that story so sweet. I feel like I have to give that as my answer.
Yeah. When you go to the Forest Haven for the first time and you hear like the Kokiri forest melody like in the track there. It's like, oh, okay, that's what you're doing here. That's
That's what you're doing
pretty cool.
here. Yeah.
No, that's a great, excellent pick. How about multiplayer? Which Nintendo game does multiplayer the best?
God, there's so many answers to this. I again thought I was going to tell you something different, and at the last minute, I'm going to go in a different direction. I'm finding myself with another classic answer here, but I feel like I have to go. I'm just going to say Mario Party.
Okay, sure.
Because the thing is, we're never dry for Mario Party jokes. I feel like that's been the thing forever of hating your friends and blah, blah, blah. But I mean, like Mario Party was one of the earliest, most memorable Nintendo experiences that I can remember. I mean, we've certainly played it many times together. And Mario Kart, of course, you can lump into that. Mario Kart 8 was going to be my answer because of how long, and we've talked about that, but how long that game has reigned supreme for Mario Kart.
Valid.
In the experience. But Mario Party, man, it's a game that brings people together. It's timeless. And it goes back to us being very, very young with that 4-player experience on the N64. And if we're talking about just what game does it best, what party game does it better than just a box of, this is like Jack in the Box before it was Jack in the Box. It has all these mini games and you get to be Mario characters. Yeah. I just don't know that there's a better choice.
No, that's an excellent pick. It's funny. I did not think about Mario Party for this.
Okay.
I kind of forgot it existed. But that is what it is. This is where I put Super Smash Brothers Ultimate. Yeah. So I don't disagree with your combat pick for this game, but I think Smash Bros is, for me, kind of the ultimate party game. And for a long time, I would have said, Melee was the one. But it's Ultimate now. It just is. I think if this game didn't have the whole everyone is here thing, and some of the characters changed from when they were in those older games, but most of them have not. I think it is the best way to play Smash Bros. Any character you want is there. Tons of the stages, a bunch of new items, like you mentioned. Like, I think this is a blast, and there are so many combinations of how you can play it.
Yeah.
It's got 8-player Smash, for crying out loud. Like,
I mean, my God, yeah.
Which is nuts. I've only done that a couple times, but I love Smash Ultimate. Easily my favorite multiplayer game Nintendo's ever put out.
That is a solid choice.
And then for our last category here, it is me again. And I bet this one's probably not going to surprise you much. It's come up a lot recently. This is replayability. And I had to go with Star Fox 64. The ultimate, like, all right, let me just do a run kind of game for me. I've talked for weeks now. We have talked about it quite a bit. There's so many, not so many, but there are 3 distinct paths, you can kind of weave in and out of. So your runs are never exactly the same. I'll never get tired of it. And that's convenient because now we're getting a new version of it. So it'll be interesting to me if I go back and play this once the new one's out, or if that will just become the new one I go back to.
I am also really curious about that, to be honest. Yeah. I've been thinking about that quite a bit.
Yeah.
If it'll be worth it. And dude, I mean, we could say the same thing about Zelda when it comes out, Yeah. Like, will we go back and play the original? That's what an interesting thing, you know?
Right.
Replayability. I went with an old one. And this one I do feel really solid about. And it goes along with what I'd mentioned here at the top of the episode, but I'm going to go Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past.
Okay.
Great pacing. Love that I don't have to do things. Well, kind of you do, but you don't have to go in the same order every time necessarily. It's not like you're free to do anything you want, but you can mix things up a little bit. I don't know if this might be a little bit of nostalgia goggles because I did wander around the world of Link to the Past quite a bit as a child, but just love it, man. I just love the art. I love the game. I love the music. I feel like every time I play it, I still have just as much fun. And I don't think it's a game I go back to as much as the others. And I'm glad that I felt prompted to do that more, just this last week, because I didn't realize how much fun I would have doing it again.
Sure.
So, I think it's extremely replayable. And if you're somebody who can stomach 2D games these days, I would absolutely give it a shot, especially if you're getting into Zelda and you want to see some of the lore and kind of where it came from,
Well, there you have it. I mean, those are our goats for various game mechanics and elements. We went through a lot, and we could always do more. There are always more categories, more things for us to list. So maybe we will in the future if this is well received. Who knows? This has been kind of an extra long one, but it was fun. I enjoyed doing it. But yeah, we appreciate you sticking with us here. Before we go, make sure you're subscribed to Podcasting with Power. Hit that subscribe button on whatever platform you're on, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, whatever. Leave us a comment and follow us on social media at Pod with Power. Until next time, though, I'm Zachary Davis and that's Jordan Carlson. Bye-bye.
Bye.